Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the corporate world. Today we're going to dissect a report from Emeren Group, and let me tell you, it contains a resignation, a press release. It is quite the drama, stay tuned. In this video, we will explore Emeren Group's recent filings, looking at their preliminary financial results and a sudden executive departure. We will break down what these events could mean for the company's future. Before we dive in, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you are subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can chat with other investors and decode these reports together. Scroll is a report, date of earliest event reported. CAVS is July 3, 2025 scroll. Let's start with the basics. This is a Form 8K report, which companies file to announce major events. The date of the earliest event reported here is July 3, 2025. So something happened on that day that Emeren Group needed to tell the Securities and Exchange Commission about. Scroll item 2.02, results of operations and financial copies. And scroll, the first big thing is under item 2.02, which is where companies talk about their financial results. Emeren Group issued a press release that provides some early financial numbers for the second quarter of 2025. This is important because it gives us a sneak peek into how well the company performed during that period and a first impression on whether it is getting better or going downhill. A scrolled copy of the press release is furnished as Exhibit 99. To scroll, a copy of this press release is included as Exhibit 99.1. It is important to note a disclaimer that says the information is not officially filed or incorporated by reference unless the company specifically says so. This means that while they are sharing these numbers, they are also protecting themselves from being held strictly liable if the information changes later because it hasn't been officially audited. Scroll item 5.02, departure of directors or certain sponsors. Scroll. Now let's move on to item 5.02, which is about changes in the company's leadership. Mr. Cameron Moore, Executive Vice President for North America, has resigned effectively immediately or as of July 3, 2025. An executive leaving suddenly can sometimes signal trouble, but it can also be just a normal career change. We need more information to know for sure. Now let's talk about that press release. Here is where the fun part starts. I will scroll to it to give you an overview. This section is all about the company releasing information. Let's go through it as though it was an original analysis. Scroll to revenues were US 64.8 million, representing a NECIs. Increase scroll in the second quarter. Emeren reported total revenues of $64.8 million US dollars. That sounds impressive, and it is in fact a 14.8% increase compared to the same period last year. Now 14.8% increase compared to the same period last year. Now 14.8% can sound like a lot for established businesses, but if you view it as an early growth stage company, that number is not as exciting. For example, if we only sold $1 million worth of product last year, it means only around 150k more sales this year, which is good but not amazing. This also means that if the company continues to be measured by these standards, it should aim to at least double-digit growth. Scroll, gross profit was US 10.7 million, representing an EPU increase of scroll. FIG company's gross profit rose to $10.70 over year. This is not as exciting to most investors unless it is grossly different than the revenue growth. A company could potentially increase its total revenues but lose money by selling the product at a very low price. That's why it is important to analyze the differences between total revenue and profits. In this case, the profits are lower, which means the company is either expanding and paying higher costs to continue generating revenue growth. A company could potentially increase its total revenues, but lose money by selling the product at a very low price. That's why it is important to analyze the differences between total revenue and profits. In this case, the profits are lower, which means the company is either expanding and paying higher costs to continue generating revenue growth. A company could potentially increase its total revenues but lose price. That's why it is important to analyze the differences between total revenue and profits. In this case, the scroll net loss attributable to the company's shareholders was US 12.2 million US scroll. Here is where things get a bit more serious. The net loss, which is the real profit after all expenses, was 12.2 million US dollars. It is important to highlight the fact that this is a loss, not a revenue. So the company lost money instead of making it. The report claims that the net loss has decreased to only $12 million from $19.8 million. But at the end of the day, the company still lost money. Many people could argue that this is necessary while a company is growing, but many investors prefer to invest in companies that are not losing money. Scroll cash and cash equivalents were US 26.4 million as ROS of June 30, 2025 scroll. At the end of the second quarter, Emeren had $26.4 million in cash and equivalents. Having cash on hand is generally good as it means the company can cover its short-term expenses while it is on the path to recovery, even though the losses are not exciting. It can also be used as leverage for the company to invest in additional projects. Now let's hear what the CEO said. It is very important to read the quote that the CEO provides because it is almost always very optimistic. The report stated that it is encouraged to see growth momentum as it continues with its targets. Looking at Emeren Group's situation, there are a few things to consider. The revenue growth is a positive sign, but the net loss is a concern. The loss decreased, but the losses remain. An executive departure adds a question mark about the company's direction and stability. On the positive side, their cash position looks decent, which could provide a buffer as they work towards profitability. They are operating in the renewable energy sector, which might bring opportunities as demand goes up and more policies are aligned with green energy. The big risk is that they are still losing money. If the loss cannot be reduced in the future, their cash reserves may deplete, which would impact its operations. On a more macro view, the solar business can be dramatically damaged by potential policy changes. In conclusion, Emeren Group is at an interesting point. Their revenue growth and CEO optimism are encouraging, but the net losses and the executive's departure give you reason to pause. This is not a company to ignore, but it needs to prove that it can turn those revenues into actual profit. Alright, that's our breakdown of Emeren's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.